Hello and welcome. My name is Stacy Borneman. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Financing Your Future, Creating a Long-Term Plan Now Around the Future That You Envision. Today's webinar is sponsored by Envisage. Envisage is a long-term planning solution that helps provide for future personal care needs to enable you to live in the home that you love as you age. Envisage is brought to you by your leaders in aging services, Presbyterian Senior Care Network, and Lutheran Senior Life. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, we're happy to have you. And those of you who are back for another opportunity to enjoy the benefits of the webinar series offered from Envisage, we thank you for your continued support. How many of you envision a future of living independently and doing so in the home that you love? How many of you are focused on health and wellness? Or maybe you wish you were just a little bit more focused on health and wellness. How many of you are concerned about protecting your assets for bigger and better things other than long-term care costs as we age? And on top of all of this, how many of you want to ensure that you're not a burden to those that you love? If any of these topics resonate with you, then Envisage just might be right for you. It is truly my honor and my privilege to be able to welcome our guest expert speakers, Stephanie Hunter and Tim Miller of the Benchmark Financial Network. Stephanie is an accredited investment fiduciary and has been a financial advisor with Benchmark Financial since 2012. She has more than 20 years experience in providing financial counseling for people throughout various stages of life. Tim Miller, joining her today, is also accredited investment fiduciary and regional director for Benchmark Financial Network. He has more than 30 years of experience in financial planning to help adults and clients pursue their goals for the future. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. Today we're going to talk about the benchmark process. This is the process we use to help our clients plan for, pursue the retirement of their dreams. And we're going to incorporate Envisage today in our benchmark process to see if this could fit into your plans for retirement and for your future. This is the benchmark process that we use with all of our clients. It's a fiduciary process, which means we have to understand the client's goals and objectives and do everything in their best interest. We start the process at the top, talking about their goals and their dreams for their retirement. What is their time horizon? What kinds of things do they want to do? Then we get into details about their assets and liabilities, risks and concerns about taxes that they have, and we look at all the details about their savings and cash flow from various sources. We then start to talk about prioritization. What are the options available to them? What's really a want versus a wish? What are the risks and rewards of various investment strategies? And what kind of asset allocation do they currently have so that we can understand what we're working with? From all of this conversation and input, we create a unique plan for their retirement. We determine options to figure out the various ways we can reach the goals and wishes and dreams that they have. We look at optimal asset allocation to achieve those goals. We look at risks and taxes. And once we finalize the plan, we begin the benchmark plan process of making sure that everything's allocated properly, invested properly. We manage the portfolio with market ups and downs and controlling risks and generate the income they'll need to live on in retirement. Finally, as we circle back to the top, we have our annual update. We meet with all of our clients every year and reevaluate the plan that's in place because things change. Maybe they have a new grandchild and they want to start saving for that grandchild's college. Maybe they've got a big expense coming up that they didn't plan for originally. Maybe it's a big family vacation or something as boring as a new roof on the house. But all of those things are going to change, and we review every year to make sure we're on track to reach all of their goals. This slide's the one I like the best because people come to us and they say, well, if I just get a 5.5% return and I only spend 4% a year, everything works out great. and I've got this nice, wonderful retirement. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. This year's a great example. Nobody planned for COVID-19. It wasn't in any of the textbooks. It wasn't part of anybody's plan, but it happened. And we had to start adjusting our clients' goals around what was going on in the world. Maybe things happen to you, you have a medical issue, or there's a major expense that we didn't count on. There's certainly going to be rainy days. There's going to be recessions and bad markets. All sorts of things are going to happen along the way, ups and downs, good and bad, towards your retirement goals. So our plan really takes into account all of these various things. We have to look at inflation and investment returns and taxes, good and bad markets, all of those things to make sure that our clients can enjoy their retirement. Stephanie, why don't you tell the folks what we're going to do and show them today?
So we created for you an example, and I named it Tom and Sally Smith. So this is just a fictional couple to show you how we do financial plans. So when I'm doing a financial plan for a couple, I sit down with them and I ask them about their wants and their needs, and we have to plan for both. We also have to plan for unknown variables. In this example, Tom and Sally Smith want to spend $100,000 per year. They also want things like cars and trucks and travel. They ask me to make sure that they can take care of their Envisage fees for the rest of their lives.
What's that base inflation rate on there?
I added a 3% base inflation rate because what cost $100,000 today doesn't cost $100,000 in 20 years. So I want to make sure that they can take care of their expenses for the rest of their lives. Why might my clients consider long-term care protection? It's because 70% of people experience some kinds of long-term care need that last 2 or more years, but most people would prefer to live in their own home. With financial planning, we can analyze for you long-term care fees and if they have to pay out of pocket or maybe get some coverage to protect them. So in my financial plans, I assume that the husband usually lives to age 90 and the wife lives to age 93. And that's far longer than the average life expectancy. But what I want to make sure is that my clients never run out of money. I also want to insert unknown variables into the plans to make sure that we're prepared for everything. Here's a good example. Let's say that Sally has an unexpected long-term care need at the age of 80. If we assume that an annual long-term care expense is $124,000, inflated at 4.5%, the total cost over 3 years would be $608,000. So the chart on the left is showing us that if there's never a long-term care expense for Tom or Sally, that their portfolios would be worth right about $2 million. That's what the orange bars are showing for Sally's age 80, 81, and 82. The blue bars are showing how the $600,000 would deplete their assets slowly over time.
So let me get this right. The orange bar is no expenses, but they're not paying for Envisage.
Right.
The blue bar is because they don't have the Envisage coverage, they've got to pay for this out of pocket. So their portfolio goes from 2 million to about 1 million in 3 short years because of that added $600,000 expense.
You got it. So just to reiterate, if Sally goes into a nursing home for 3 years at age 80, this could impact her portfolio by over $600,000. And so that's why we think of a long-term care protection as an asset and not necessarily a cost.
Well, this is a busy chart. What are we showing here?
On this chart, I'm simply showing what inflation looks like on your goals for the rest of your life. So for example, the orange bars are the $100,000 expenses that we talk about, inflated over the rest of their life. So this is just Tom and Sally's living expense, the keep the lights on expense. The dark blue bars are their travel. And then we have the Envisage fees and the cars and trucks throughout the rest of their lives. All of it is inflated at 3%. So it's important that we create a portfolio that is targeted not only for income, but for growth to outpace inflation. So it's also important that we determine whether Tom and Sally can live in both bear markets and bull markets.
So what we're looking at here is Tom and Sally's portfolio. They've saved over their lifetime, and they've put together a portfolio to help pay for retirement that's a little over $2 million. We've categorized everything that they've invested in by stocks and bonds, what types, et cetera. And their portfolio totals about 55% in stocks. This is very common for a couple about to retire. What the computer does is it looks at the mix of investments and runs a very sophisticated back testing of all of those various investments, and then projects it into the future to give us an idea of what kind of return we could expect from this portfolio over time. It's hard to say exactly what return we'll get, but the computer tells us that the average would be about 5.5%. We talked about the 3% inflation, so if costs are going up at 3%, our real return's really only 2.5%. Not a big margin of error, given the rising costs. So this gives us a starting point for the computer analysis to determine what kinds of returns we can get from this portfolio. But we know there's going to be bear markets and recessions and all sorts of issues over time with the portfolio, so we have to stress test it. On this page, it shows us the bear market returns that this exact portfolio would have had during the Great Recession of 07 to 09. This portfolio would have gone down 23% over that time. And yet, if they were retired, they still would need money from the portfolio to live on. So the computer's going to use past results to try to model future opportunities and recessions to give us an idea of what's going to happen to their portfolio over time in their retirement. We can't know the future, but we can try to use sophisticated computer models to model it.
So Tim, I also want to point out that Tom and Sally's fictitious portfolio is worth just over $2 million. But we do financial planning for all kinds of clients who have more money than this and less money than this and want to spend more or less in their estimated living expenses. So it's important to realize that everybody's needs and everybody's wants are different. This is just an example. So now we're able to take the asset allocation that we just showed you on the screen and layer the expenses and in the Monte Carlo and make some assumptions for the future. And that's what I've done right here. So in this example, what we're doing is layering in all of the expenses that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. So the basic living expense was about $100,000. Tom and Sally wanted a new car and a new truck and travel, and they wanted to make sure that through the rest of their lives, they could pay the Envisage fee, inflating, by the way, at 3%. So I took the Monte Carlo, the 1,000 back-tested trials, and I applied their current asset allocation with the assumptions of about 5.5% and ran all of that analysis. And what I came out with was a success ratio of 85%. Now, what a success ratio means is that out of my 1,000 back-tested trials, 850 of the trials came out so that through Sally's age 93, she never runs out of money. So in order for a plan to be successful, the positive trials, meaning Sally not running out of money, need to be between 75 and 90%.
Why don't we shoot for 100% on this?
Believe it or not, the reason why we don't shoot for between 90% and 100% is because in that instance, Tom and Sally would be sacrificing too much. So it would mean that they saved and saved their whole entire lives, really without enjoying their retirement enough.
Well, that's not any fun.
From there, I ran another analysis on our Monte Carlo process. So in this example, I assumed that Tom and Sally decided they didn't want to pay those Envisage fees. So they aren't paying their fees and they save money in that instance. But at age 80, Sally has that long-term care expense that we talked about a few slides ago. So Sally needs to pay out of pocket from age 80 to 83 for her long-term care expenses. So you can see that the success ratio of the financial plan went from 85% to 81%. So you can see that she can pay for her long-term care, but the plan is less successful.
Well, that's fine and dandy, but what if Tom has some needs as well?
So if both Tom and Sally have long-term care needs and have to pay out of pocket, the success ratio goes into our failed zone all the way down to 49%.
Well, that's just a flip of the coin whether they run out of money or not. That's not very good.
Right. My concern about this plan is that Sally, because I assume that she'll live longer, will run out of money. So how can we help you define a financial plan for your future? What we've done here is just map out the 1,000 Monte Carlo back-tested trials. For this example, it is the plan that I showed you where Tom and Sally pay the Envisage fees through the rest of their lives. So the success ratio is 85%. And I really like this chart. It's a little bit busy, but if you look at the gray spaghetti lines in the chart, those are the 1,000 back-tested trials. So you can see, although we talk in averages about 5.5% return, the returns are actually all over the board. The average return is that green line towards the middle, kind of at the bottom, where at the end of Sally's life, her estate would be worth $1.4 million.
What's that number at the top there, that 9.5 million?
Well, that's the best trial. So that's if everything goes perfectly and you happen to hit the best markets.
And that red line, it looks like that's the plan to run out of money, spend your last dollar as you have your last breath.
Right. So the red line is called our bad timing line, because remember, we do lots of stress tests in our Monte Carlo process. So the red line is that Tom and Sally would retire and have 2 consecutive years of negative returns. So that's sort of the worst case scenario, because you assume that they start withdrawing their $100,000 in their Envisage fees and everything like that off of a much lower value portfolio right at the beginning of retirement.
So that's like retiring in the summer of 2007 and then having the market decline for 2 years.
Yeah, those were some terrible years.
But even in that case, they still have enough money to last through the end of their lives.
They do, yeah. This is a very conservative retirement plan. We try to use our assumptions in the most conservative way.
So how do you plan to finance your future? How are you going to make sure that the various things that you like to do in retirements are all going to work out? Well, because you watched this webinar today, we're offering you a complimentary financial plan, just like the example we showed you. We'll analyze if long-term care solutions that you're contemplating fit into your retirement plan. If you send an email to Stephanie at the email address below, tell us that you watched this webinar, and then we'll contact you to go through the benchmark process, gathering the needed information, talking to you about your goals and expenses, and creating a unique financial plan to help you analyze if the Envisage program can fit into your retirement plan. Our office is in Wexford, right off of I-79 and 910, but we can do all of this work with a Zoom conference call, as we're currently doing with most of our clients. We'd be happy to help you analyze your situation. There's no obligation. We'll do the work to help you see if this works for you, but you're under no obligation. There's no cost for this because you participated in the program today.
Thanks so much, Tim and Stephanie. As you determine your plan to finance your future, consider the impact of long-term care on your financial future. As Stephanie said, you can't really look at long-term care fees as expenses, but rather more as an asset. The fee can be minimal in comparison to what long-term care can cost, especially when you consider the future dollar. As I mentioned, my name is Stacy Borneman, and I represent Presbyterian Senior Care and Lutheran Senior Life, both proven leaders in aging services with outstanding reputations in and around Western Pennsylvania. Why do I stress that? Who better to bring you a program that specializes in wellness and care coordination as you age? And better yet, a program that will allow you to remain in your home even as care needs present. Envisage will not only do all of that, but Envisage also offers each member the very own personal wellness and care coordinator. This is a unique offering, and as many members of Envisage currently would say, is priceless. Your personal wellness and care coordinator will respect your sense of control and independence in all that they will do for you. The care coordinator will get to know everything about you that you're willing to share, and he or she will serve as your personal advocate as it relates to your healthcare needs. And they will also help you navigate the maze of aging. Whether it's a bad spell of the flu or a catastrophic illness, your very first call should be to your care coordinator. They will work in your favor through complex hospital stays, short-term rehabilitation if it's necessary, but get you back home surrounded by the support and care that you may need. They will not only know all of your wishes, but they will have talked to you well in advance before there were even issues to be handled. In many ways, they become an extension of your family, but an extension that will take care of all the messy stuff so that your friends and family can continue to serve in their current role, just as friends and family. Keep in mind, if your goal is to remain in your home as you age, we know home concerns arise. All of a sudden you have a leaky roof, you need somebody to help in the fall with the leaves. Envisage has resources to help you attend to those needs as well, with detailed lists of vetted and trusted insured providers. From around-the-clock nursing to meal prep during a minor illness and to licensed professionals that will help you with those household repairs that are so hard to come by, your personal wellness and care coordinator will assist you. I'd like to leave you with this. The future happens, and it is the unexpected that you can count on and expect. With Envisage, your future care needs are not going to fall upon the family. They will be handled by your personal wellness and care coordinator that you know and that you trust. Let us do the heavy lifting. Envisage will answer questions you may not have even thought to ask. As an Envisage member, you will have made the choice to live your best life in the home that you love, following the passions you desire to pursue, all the while knowing you have a long-term care in place that will meet you when you need it and will eliminate any burden on those that you love. If this sounds like it might be of interest to you, or maybe you have some personal questions, please contact an Envisage advisor to begin the conversation. I promise you, it will be just that, a conversation. No commitment, no pressure. As a not-for-profit organization, the Envisage team is committed to helping you create a plan that works just for you. We appreciate everybody's attendance today and responsiveness. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have any additional questions or would like to learn a little bit more about Envisage or how Benchmark could help you achieve your financial goals, all of them, including long-term care needs, please, you can reach out to Envisage Advisor and we can connect you with both or all of us. And you can find us how to reach us at envisage.org. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.